Welcome. I found this image on the web and decided to try recreate it, this green foliage plant. So I extracted a single leaf with the GIMP, and this is the result. And I took this as a texture in Blender and created this object. And I'm using this now to create the structure using the fibonarray add-on. So I select the object and it's in the collection 2, and I rename the collection to foliage plant. I select the collection and now I have the cursor at the center and create Fibo in the fibonarray add-on, and this will create this structure. And I move the control curves to the right side, and this is the object. And now I select the parent, and the first thing is I want to make the leaves point outwards. So I go to rotation settings in the panel and change the set sequential value until the leaves point to the outside from the center. And the next thing is I want the leaves to go up a little bit, so I change the X slope and they start to point up just a little bit for now, because later I want to adjust them with the curve objects. Now I want to give the structure some height, so I want to use the curve for this, and I select use curves for height, activate it, and the structure gets some height, and I can adjust the height with the first control curve. The curve is called control height set. So I select the curve and I can move it on disable proportional, move the curve points on the x-axis and change the width of the object. And in the control panel I also have the spread factor, and it's best to have this, if using curves, it's best to have this at 1 or below 1. So I choose 0.5 for the spread factor, and with the height curve I move it on the x-axis and I go to top view and move the leaves to the center, so they start at the center. Okay. So I select the control curve and move the knots on the x-axis and make the leaves start at the center. Now they start at the center, and I think the structure is too high, so I can select the top knot and move it down and make the structure smaller. I can move the bottom knot and move it up and make the structure smaller. And the height is also influenced by the second curve, by the bend curve. This is a little bit odd, but it made the bend curve work better, so I had to make a compromise. I move the bend curve and I can adjust the height. So bend means I can bend the object, but it also affects the height, so I'm adjusting the bend curve's height as well to make the structure more compact. And now I can go to top view and I have this spiral like shape, and if I look at the original object it's less spiral, so I can adjust the spiral setting with the phi factor and phi factor fine and try different settings. Now I get a star shape or a spiral shape or this kind of Fibonacci shape, and I think this is most appropriate, more similar with like the original. So I use this, and I can also add some randomization settings later to make it look more natural. But for now I use this shape. And now if I look at the original object, the outside leaves point to left and right, but the center leaves point upwards. I try to recreate this, so I activate the use curves for rotation. Activate the rotation curves And this is the rotation curve. It's called control rotation X. And I go to edit mode, and now I can select the top knot and move it on the x-axis, and it will change. If I go change the rotation of the top leaves if I move the curve. Okay, so I make them point upwards. Okay, and the bottom leaves I want to point to left and right. So I select the bottom knot and move it to the left and make the leaves point more to the outside direction. Okay, and now I can select this handle, just the handle, and I can even adjust the rotation in the center if I want to. So I try if I get some nice result. And if I want to, I can also go to object mode and move the curve closer to the object, so I can see better what I'm doing. And later I move the curve back so I do not get confused. So this is just changing the rotation of the object. And okay, I think I like this. And now I can adjust the size of the objects, and I want to use the curves for that, so I go to the panel and select use curves for size, and I move the control curve, the rotation curve, back to its original position, and I select the size curve, and I go to edit mode, and I can move it on the x-axis and change the object size. And now I change only the bottom leaves, make the bottom leaves bigger, and make the top leaves smaller. And this is the result so far. So I have smaller top leaves, I have them point upwards, and I have bigger outer leaves and point them to the sides. And I think this is a good first version. So I go to front view and I select, go to edit mode, object mode, go to object mode, select the parent object, press Shift G, immediate children, and now Shift select the parent object again. Now I have these objects selected, and then I press Shift D for duplication, and I make a duplicate version. And in a panel I scroll down and press, with these still selected, unlink apply, and this will separate these objects. Now I can delete this cone object, it's a duplicate, and I can go back to my original to my control object and continue editing without influencing the duplicate. So for example, I can change the shape by changing the phi factor. For example, create a star-like shape. I just play around and see if there's any result I like. This obviously not in this case. So okay, maybe this one. And now I apply some random settings so it starts to look more natural. Randomize the rotation, and maybe a little bit more. Okay, and now I change the height of the objects. I go to the control height curve and move the top knot a little bit up, so I have a little bit higher version. And now I go to my size curve and change the size. Okay, and now I have a second object, and I select the parent, press Shift G, immediate children, Shift select the parent again, Shift D duplicate on the Z axis. I scroll down the panel and press unlink apply. And now I have these two versions created. I can delete the duplicated cone objects, and I select these and I move them to a different select the parent object, select plus Shift D immediate children. Now press M and I move to a new collection, and I call this new collection foliage new. Press OK, select the parent and move it to the foliage new. Select this object, press Shift G, immediate children, press M, move to collection foliage new, and select the parent object and move this to foliage new. Now I have moved these objects to the foliage new collection, and I hide the control objects collection. So I hide these, and now I show the ground plane. I have them in the ground collection, and there are my created objects, and I have this ground plane, and I create a small scene. So move them. I can rotate them a little if I like to. Now we'll go to shading mode. And I change the lights, so make the scene more interesting with the lights. Okay, and now I set the ambient occlusion setting, give it more depth. And I've created this this small scene with two different but similar objects. And I can hide the extra the parent objects with overlays, hide extras, and this is the result so far. So this is how you can create green foliage plants and with the fibonarray add-on, and create different versions. Okay, thank you for watching, and goodbye.